Hey guys, Dave at antistate.ca here, and today I want to talk about economic freedom versus social freedom and kind of the dichotomy between them. And moderate politicians and kind of political thinkers often like to talk about economic freedom and social freedom as though they're different things. I mean, liberals are supposedly pro-social freedom and against economic freedom. I don't really find that to be the case in practice. And conservatives are supposedly pro-economic freedom and against social freedom, so I don't really find that to be the case in practice either. But that's what they talk about. And it's as though there's a dichotomy between these two ideas, and when in reality that there isn't one. And I think to kind of get a handle on this dichotomy, this problem, we got to figure out what freedom is, or define what freedom is. So let's just think about some of the traditional freedoms that we have in our society. Let's say freedom of speech, freedom of association, and freedom of exchange. So we say we have freedom of speech when people are basically allowed to say what they want or talk about things with people they want, and we say that freedom of speech is violated when governments or people hurt or threaten people for speaking. So if I went out to a public square and I started advocating that the government pull out of Afghanistan, which it absolutely should, and the government came and put me in a cage for that, most people would think that my freedom of speech was violated because they threatened me or hurt me for speaking. So freedom of association is really when people are allowed to group together for whichever reasons they choose and engage in activities and action, advocacy, unions, that kind of stuff. And we really say that the freedom of association is violated when governments or people hurt people for getting together voluntarily. So let's say when the government cracks down on certain kind of social or religious groups, we often say that it's a violation of freedom of association. So when people are threatened or violence is used against them for engaging in particular kind of action. And freedom of exchange, we say we have freedom of exchange when people are basically allowed to associate and trade with one another for a variety of reasons, whatever reasons they think is advantageous to their lives. And we kind of say that freedom of exchange is violated when government comes in and threatens people, or other people threaten people for exchanging goods and associating. So what do these three kind of freedoms have in common? And they have one basic thing in common, and that's the idea that freedom is the ability to engage in action without being threatened or hurt for it. So how does this really apply to this economic and social freedom dichotomy we have? Simple. It means that essentially those two freedoms and everything that falls under them are the same thing. So economic freedom refers to the ability for a person to kind of engage in certain kinds of peaceful actions and associations, like association for the purposes of trade or production or making things that people want or growing food without being threatened for it by government or other people. And social freedom refers to the ability for a person to engage in other kinds of peaceful actions and associations, like association for sex, culture, art, speech, etc., without being threatened for it. So in both cases, freedom comes down to one simple idea: the right to not be threatened by other people for engaging in peaceful actions.